Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? How is everyone today? Happy Halloween, guys. We made it. We made it. Another October almost in the books. Like, October is my favorite month, and I'm constantly like, how is it the end of October already? It seems like we just started. Everybody excited for Halloween, the big day tomorrow? Got your costumes ready? Got your movies picked? All set up for the big event? It is Mischief Night. Devil's Afternoon, I'm calling it today. Thank you all for coming to hang out with me today. Felt like Halloween Eve, like a necessary thing for me to come on and spend some time with you guys, chit chat, shoot the breeze, talk about some movies, do the usual. So I'm glad you all came. Thank you for coming. It's always good to like hit play and see people actually in the room so that I'm not talking to myself, because I'm good at that in like my daily life, but looking into a camera and talking to myself is kind of weird. So thank you all for coming. I'm happy to see you. I hope you all, you blah, 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 outtakes already. I hope you all are having a good day. Let's dive in. Let's talk about what is everybody watching for Halloween. Are you guys going with the tried and true traditional, Halloween trick or treat stuff like that? Or do you have some other things that you kind of watch that are off the beaten path? I have some things that I kind of watch that are not your normal, traditional picks. I always do watch the classics, of course, but sometimes I like to, go off the beaten path and march to my own drummer. So let me know in chat what you're going to watch. We'll talk about it. Talk much? No, not enough. Not enough at all. Spookies. This is a good choice. This is an off the beaten path choice that I approve of. Spookies, it's kind of funny. Like, I'm glad Spookies is finally getting its day in the sun, so to speak, after all these sort of years of being ignored and sort of lost. So I was going to do Spookies earlier this year, and then Joe Bob did it, so not happening. Ooh, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. That's a deep cut right there. That's like one of those ones. That's not one I expected to see on the list. So kudos to you for that. Neil, Friday the 13th on Halloween? Are you crazy? It's like crossing the streams, man. You can't do that. Riff Tracks Halloween movies. I approve of any Riff Tracks or MST3K event. That is a definite thumbs up from me. So. Eve, funny scary movies. Not doing the scary thing, Eve. Just funny. Like, what are we classifying as funny? I guess is my question. Well, Matza, I appreciate that. As soon as I got the update that you were on, I dropped everything and came right here, brother. Well, that is fantastic. I am glad you did that. And man, that makes my life easier. I'm blessed to have an audience of people who like to watch my idiocy. So. Not logging on to 0 viewers is always cool. So I appreciate that. I got the J and B. Wow, we're set then. Let's ready to get this thing started. This is okay. So this is a great choice, Dave. Night Curse of the Demon 57. So I've probably told this story before, but when we shot the first test episode before Sick Flicks was Sick Flicks, before the channel had launched, in 2019, I did a video in October. My first video. It was going to be my launch, the channel thing, 5 movies to watch for Halloween that basically weren't Halloween. And Night and Curse of the Demon, whichever title you prefer, was on that list. And that video never happened because it was a valuable learning experience for me that you have to check your footage, because sometimes you get the cover of the teleprompter in the way of the lens. And so then like half the screen is black. And it was the half that had my head in it. So it was, like if I wanted to do a Headless Horseman video, it would have been pretty cool. But as a traditional Halloween video, not so great. All right, I missed a few super chats. I finally figured out how to find them when I missed them. So let's dive into those real quick. Ernest Scared Stupid is the only choice to watch. Ernest has never been my bag, but if he makes you happy, great. And thank you for the super chat. Who sent that one? Oh, Grazing Bull. Thank you. I'm sorry. The camera is in the way. So like as you know, this is a work in progress for me. So now I'm gonna have to duck my head around the camera to see those. And then we have, oh my God, I can't say that. Ditam 3ITA. No question, but a super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's awesome. I'm sorry, I probably butchered your name. Let me find the rest of the chat back here. Someday I'm going to be good at this. Like someday we're going to look back at these videos and go, God, Mike, you sucked. Just terrible. So hopefully. Moss, last year we watched Hammer movies. You'll pick something tonight. Any suggestions? Well, if you want another Hammer movie, my top suggestion is always The Devil Rides Out. Like you cannot go wrong with that movie. That is a classic. Christopher Lee is a good guy for a change. Sort of cool goat of Mendes, some devil worship, all that stuff. Classic film. I recommend that all the time. So you cannot go wrong with that. Amy Ramirez, thank you so much and happy Halloween to you. I appreciate that. I hope you're having a good Halloween Eve. So yeah, I think Halloween 3, if not for the soundtrack, commercial, absurdity, plot involving magic, Stonehenge disruptor beams. Yes, all of that. Yes, John, The Devil Rides Out. That is like one of the most iconic representations of you know, a demon, devil, Satan, whatever on film. Like that guy looks so great in that costume and the little bit of time he gets on screen. It's just terrifying. And it's amazing that it's all these years later that it's still like one of the pinnacle sort of costumes. So yeah, wow. Well, it scared me too as a kid, a little bit. Not going to lie. Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. It's classic. Sean, thank you. Happy Halloween to you, man. I appreciate that. Hope you're having a good one. Just watching the Dead trilogy. The Dead trilogy is kind of interesting. Like I always look at like Night and think, yeah, I could say like it's not Halloween, but you could kind of make the case for it feeling like Halloween. Yeah, I never really thought of watching the Dead trilogy for Halloween. That's an interesting pick. I approve though. I like it. Yeah, see, I'm glad some other people appreciate The Devil Rides Out. Like it's sort of, everybody thinks of Hammer and they think, oh, Christopher Lee, Dracula, and you know, some of the big mainstream titles. And The Devil Rides Out is like one of their sort of lost in the shuffle films that's really, really good that people have started to appreciate in the last few years. So I'm glad that more people know about it because I talk about it like all the time, just in my daily life. So it's cool that other people are starting to catch up with it. All right, so you're gonna go different this year. All right, so I'll give you like my suggestions. One of my suggestions for this year is if you like sort of the off the beaten path stuff that's not the obvious choice, and it's a relatively recent vintage and just came out on Blu-ray. The WNUF Halloween special is an interesting choice if you go in for that sort of fake documentary, found footage kind of vibe. It's supposed to be like a recreate. It's not. It's a recreation of what's supposed to be an old television broadcast live from like this local channel where they do a Halloween special where they go into this haunted house and try to explore if it's really haunted or not. And it's like super low budget, but that sort of makes it feel more real. It's got like they made like fake commercials and everything to sort of immerse you into the world of the house and the news story. So if you don't like found footage or that sort of fake documentary thing, it's a little tougher sell. But I'm glad it finally came out on Blu-ray, where not because it will look better, it looks terrible, but because it's a movie more people need to see. And if you like that, it sort of has a tie-in with Ghost Watch, which was from like the 1992, I think, in England. That one had like sort of a War of the Worlds response, where like the BBC showed it and like they got like flooded with phone calls, like some people who thought it was real, some people who hated it, and then they like never aired it again. It like aired in other places, but like I don't think the BBC has ever shown it again. But it was floating around on the internet a lot, like a couple years ago. It's not streaming currently that I'm aware of, but you can definitely find it if you look. So those are two picks for you if you're into that sort of thing. If you're not, maybe I have something else. Yeah, Neil remembers. Ghostwatch was a big deal, wasn't it, Neil? Like I don't remember it at the time because it had not come over here. But everything I've heard about it and read about it, and since I've seen it, has been like it was a big deal. So I've seen it. It's very cool. I like it. But I'm a big sucker, as you know, if you saw my my video on oh god, what's the movie with the Jersey Devil? The Last Broadcast. If you saw my The Last Broadcast video, you know I'm a big sucker for that sort of fake documentary type film. Like I don't have the problem with found footage a lot of people have for some reason. Like I can totally suspend my disbelief and buy into that sort of vibe and dig those kind of films. So Manhunt for PlayStation 2 is great. That is one of my favorite games. Oh, sorry. Click the wrong one there. Jacques, shock treatment with Jessica Harper. Yes, but not in forever. I don't actually, you know what? I don't know. I'm gonna have to look up and see if I saw that one. I think I did. Sometimes I'm not sure though. Yes. Exactly like that. Yeah, like it's like one of those things like Flower, Flesh and Blood. When you watch it now, especially, you go like, how do people like get all worked up over this? Like it's cool, but it doesn't feel remotely like to buy in that it was real is sort of like, wow, that's I'm not sure what to make of that. So this is funny. I've thought about doing iMadman a lot lately. Like it's sitting on my shelf by my desk. So that's like one step away from being on my desk. If it gets to my desk, it's probably happening. So it's one that like I think about doing it a lot and then something always comes up and I kind of put it back in the pile for later. So could happen though. Yes, Brian Cox is amazing. How are you, Robert? Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good Halloween Eve. We just got all that Brian Cox talking about other actors thing, and that was just like the greatest thing ever. So I'm totally on a Brian Cox kick this week. All right. Thank you again. At Halloween, I always go back to my first traumatic horror experience, Cronenberg Shivers. Watch it when I was 11, too young for it, still creepy. Yes, Cronenberg Shivers is one that I would also like to do at some point. I'm worried that like, I think it's a Lionsgate here now for some reason that they're somehow involved with it. So I'm a little bit afraid of getting copyright claimed on it, but I'm going to do it at some point anyway, because it's an important film. It's creepy. It's weird. It's prototypical Cronenberg in a lot of ways. So like early Cronenberg, though, lots of like weird, the body horror vibe. You see the foundation of everything that Cronenberg is going to be in Shivers. So amazing film. I did not watch it 11. I think it will scar me for life. To be fair, Charlie obviously did not see Flower of Flesh and Blood in its raw video release format. A lot of people at that time were doing not mixtapes, but they would take things like that and they would chop them up. And so if you only saw a clip of certain parts of Flower, Flesh and Blood out of context with none of the surrounding stuff, just a brief snippet of it, I could see being fooled. He's still an idiot. I agree with you. I don't know why I'm sticking up for Charlie Sheen. I just must be feeling benevolent today. But yes, he probably was pretty coked up. Favorite Cronenberg film is definitely Videodrome. I love Videodrome. I think it's an amazing piece of work. I would love to cover it someday. Hope to get to it. James Woods is great in it. Debbie Harry's great in it. I love, like, having grown up in that era of, like, you know, UHF channels and all that before everybody had cable. Like, I didn't have cable till I was in my teens, or really close. And so you would flip around these weird UHF channels and you never knew what you were going to find, like on a Saturday night, or like when my uncle had a satellite dish, you really never knew what you were going to find. So the idea of flipping around channels and finding a show like Videodrome totally clicked with me, because I was like, oh my God, maybe I could find something like that if I flip around at 2 a.m. The Michael and Roberta Finley film Snuff. I like it for its historical relevance. I like it less as a film. It's not very good. Even the infamous tacked on ending is not very good. But yeah, but like for its historical, introducing that word into the public lexicon type thing and all that. Yeah, it's an important film. It's not a good film, but it's an important film. Yeah, it is. when you get to the scene where he's like putting videotapes in his gut and all that stuff, yeah, it's definitely trippy. So, well, Scanners is great. I love Scanners too. Scanners. My problem with Scanners is I can't remember the dude's name, but the lead actor in Scanners just does not work for me, and like he is so outclassed by Michael Ironside in that film that like it kind of messes up the film for me a little bit. Like I love the story, I love the idea, I love the exploding heads, I love the showdown at the end. I just think that the guy who I think his name's like Stephen Lack or something like that, I can't remember, but the guy who's the lead actor is just, to me, he's not on the caliber of Ironside, and so watching Ironside is always fascinating, and watching him is less fascinating. When I think of Shivers, I think of this computer game called Shivers that was set in a huge mansion and it was full of spirits and you had to solve puzzles and find talismans. I do not know this game. Was it a PC game? How old is it? I'm not familiar with that one. Eve, thank you for the sticker. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. What else have we got here? Yes, he's a legend. Like Ironside is a legend. That guy he's one of those actors who just makes everything better, right? Everything he does, it's just better because he's in it. So, and Scanners is that same problem. Yeah, he's very wooden. He just not a lot of range. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy. I just don't think he was the best choice for that particular film, and especially not alongside Ironside. Like you just sometimes you get away with like having a less than great actor if you put them next to someone who's of a relatively the same caliber. So you get like sort of matching level of performance and it works out. But when you put like a really good actor next to just an average marginal, maybe a character actor, that's often a recipe for disaster. And in Scanner's case, that's the one thing that kind of holds that film back a little bit, I think. Yeah, you like like a good example of this is like I think about Scanners in the same way I think about Die Hard. And the way the reason Die Hard works is like Alan Rickman is a great actor. Willis is not as good an actor as Alan Rickman, but he's in the same, he can hang on screen with him. They're close enough. But honestly, when you watch Scanners, Ironside's the guy you want to watch. And in the same way, when I watch Die Hard, a lot of times I'm more fascinated by the Rickman scenes. So. Well, yes, I expect it's going to happen. Cellar Dweller's another one. So a lot of time, the problem with this is like, I am a one man show, although we are expanding. The channel is, getting help. So I hope maybe we can move beyond one video a week at some point, even if the second video is like some sort of different horror movie related content than just traditional sick flicks. But, yeah, it's just hard. There's so many movies. I only get 52 of them out a year, one a week. Stuff's just, I could do this show for 20 years and not cover everything. So not that I want to do this for 20 years. I'm going to run out of puns way before we get to 20 years. Hobo with a Shotgun is great. That's another one I'd like to do. And that's one that gets requested a lot. Like in spurts. Like it's sort of funny. Like there are some movies that just get requested all the time. Dead Alive, Serbian Film, Return of the Living Dead. And then there are others that kind of go through like these cycles. Like I'll get a bunch and then I won't hear about it for a while. And then I'll get a bunch again. And Hobo with a Shotgun is one of those. But like once people start asking for Hobo with a Shotgun, I get a lot of requests for it. And then no one asks for it again for a while, which is weird. I really like The Taking of Deborah Logan. Like, again, sucker for found footage, that whole vibe. I don't know why. I know, like, I understand people hate found footage. I don't entirely understand why. I get it because intellectually you go like, well, it's a gimmick and I don't buy into it. I think I'm just like, when I sit down with a movie, if I go through such a vetting process with films before I spend time on them, because I only have so much time and they're work related and I've done this so long that like if I get to the point where I'm committed enough to sit down and watch it, I'm going to buy into its world unless it's just really poorly done. And so I think that's why maybe I have less of an issue with found footage than so many other people do, because when I do kind of tune in and watch it, I've already kind of just committed to like, I'm just going to go along for this ride wherever it takes me, unless it's really bad. And there are plenty of really bad found footage films. I just saw Antlers yesterday. It was all right. Great creature effects, but nothing else too special. This is a bummer. I was really hoping Antlers was going to be the home run horror movie I'd been waiting for this year. I'm not surprised it has great creature effects, but I'm kind of bummed to hear that nothing else really blew you away about it. That's sort of disappointing. Michael Moriarty is awesome in everything. I'm a big Law and Order nerd, and so Michael Moriarty on the first couple seasons, like when he left or got fired or whatever, I was pretty angry about that. It took me a long time to like Sam Waterston as the Jack McCoy, because I was a Ben Stone guy. But yeah, Moriarty. The really wild thing about Moriarty is like you will watch him in something like Q or what's the other? Is he in The Stuff? I think he's in The Stuff too. Yeah, but any of those Coen films, and he's always kind of like. You always get this vibe that he's kind of like a campy actor. And then you see him in something like Law and Order, and he's totally capable of doing like totally serious roles. So he's a real chameleon, that guy. The funny thing, the other story about him is that he was one of the guys that was on King's shortlist to be Jack Torrance in The Shining, and Kubrick was like, no, Nicholson. So I often sit around and wonder what The Shining would have been like if they'd cast Michael Moriarty instead of Nicholson. Yes. Yeah, I would. But this always scares me about doing them because like I'm pretty adventurous as far as what I would cover on the channel, not because like we've done a couple Zero Barf Bag movies. We've done some ones. I would absolutely cover Story of Ricky, which is not a traditional horror film, but it's a splatter film. For me, I think if it falls into like, is it a splatter film? Even if it's not horror, it's certainly something I would put on the table for an episode. And Turbo Kid definitely. So. Mushroom Man horror. I don't know that. I mean, I probably do, but I need a title. James, thank you. With all the Ironsides love here, would you consider? Yes. Just got to that one. There it is again. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. I like to hang out with you guys regardless, but the super chats are nice. They help me get the specific questions. If you have a specific question for you, sometimes the chat is too fast for me to keep up with. Oh, yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, that's one. It's going to be really hard to do now. I'm not going to lie. Like I think about Story of Ricky all the time, and I go like, how would I cut this and come out with a video that had enough movie footage to still tell the story and the jokes and all that? And yeah, it's tough with modern YouTube. Oh, okay. I have not seen that, so. Hello from Florida, Edward. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate that. Oh, I see a Brandon comment, but it's out of context, so I don't know what it is, but I'm intrigued. Yeah. See that. So that's it. So like the show is Sick Flicks, and so when I started Sick Flicks, it was like, well, we're gonna do like splatter movies, and then YouTube lost their goddamn mind and basically said you can't do any splatter movies. So I try to sneak them in where I can and have to kind of neuter them a little bit, but it's kind of cool in a way because like I feel like, yeah, if I want to do Nosferatu, I could. And I don't think the only issue there is like the audience does not react well to anything older than like 1970. So like that's why we haven't done Coffin Joe, because H.G. Lewis Blood Feast just did not do well. Like the younger demographic apparently finds those films too old. So he is scary in Scanners, that's for sure. He is. Vash Starwind, great channel, Mike. I've been a fan for a while. Well, thank you, Vash. I appreciate that. I've seen your comments before. I know we've talked at some point. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I'm not starring in it, Sammy. I often think I'm the only sane man in this state. But I will also tell you that the Florida man stories you hear are true, but there are Florida man stories that never make it out of Florida that are even crazier. So. Hey, Abracious, how you doing? I know you did. I saw your comment saying you just watched it, so I'm gonna have to check it out. And check out his review if you haven't yet and you like Maniac. And you should like Maniac because it's great. Thank you again. What's the movie you find the most extreme tough to watch in the genre? I draw the line at Martyrs, Inside, and Irreversible. P.S. Call me Alex. Hey, Alex, that's much easier. Thank you. Well, the easy answer for me is Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, because that whole puking thing grosses me out. And like when I had this illusion that YouTube was going to allow me to cover those films at some point, the selling point of the video was going to be watch the movie that almost made the horror geek puke, because it really almost did at one scene. So, yeah, I don't, those films are very odd. Like they're very artsy and abstract. And then you've got a lot of vomiting in them, which is definitely for me, the sort of line, that's always the one I come back to. Yes, Mika, it is kind of shit to have to cut things out. This is just the world we live in. It's YouTube basically got busted like a year and a half ago for advertising and marketing to kids when they're collecting information they weren't supposed to, and they paid a big fine. And as all things at YouTube, shit rolls downhill, and when they screw up, it inevitably ends up being creators who pay for it. And so rather than just say like, well, we have a 13 and under, first off, we have a rule that says you can't be younger than 13 and have a YouTube account, and we have a YouTube Kids. But rather than enforce those rules we're going to force all the adults to have to watch things that are basically G-rated. So it's annoying and I can't do anything about it, but I feel your pain. So, and thank you for watching. I appreciate it. The Girl Next Door is disturbing. The book is even more disturbing. So the Jack Ketchum novel is really goes a lot further than the film, and the real case is also very disturbing. I love that stuff, Neil. If it's Italian or some kind of Euro horror, that's my bag. That's my favorite stuff. That's why we cover so much of it on the channel, because I love it and it's fun to do, and it's I know a lot about it and I like to talk about it. So Bava, Argento, Paul Naschy, Franco, all those guys, like I love all that stuff. So this is true. Yeah, they were the first ad apocalypse before I even had a channel. They afterwards they really stuck it to horror creators. We're an easy target. They want to act like that us and true crime, that kind of stuff, that kind of content. They like the money, they like the views, but they also don't want to admit they like the content. So yeah, they have stuck it to these kind of creators in these fields for a long time. It's really bad. It's been really bad since the start of 2021. Like my experience in 2020 was I got more stuff through without issue as far as gore and even, you know, words. And early 2021, it was like every video, as soon as it went up, was demonetized. Every one of them. And then they won't tell you why they demonetized them or anything like that. So, and it was like, it was movies that like I had videos from before that were monetized that were way gorier that they approved that were fine. And so now in 2021, you know, something like Hell Night where there's not even any gore in it gets flagged. So there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. Yes, that's absolutely correct, Albert. They will ban people covering fictional horror. Look, I always beating a dead horse about YouTube when it comes to this, but which was it, Logan or Jake, who showed the body in the suicide forest? That video was monetized. That video was approved and monetized, and only demonetized after there was an outlash. Just people went nuts over it. I can't show you. A bloody face. So, but that was okay. So there's absolutely a double standard on this site. And that, if you dig, you don't even have to dig deep on YouTube to find things that you'll go, how did that get monetized? Because that is completely wrong. But, yeah, and it is. And then me, I can't show you a kill scene from Hell Night because somebody has to think of the kids. Yeah. Yes, I'm screwed. This is my life. I literally now have to go through scripts and like look for jokes that might get flagged after the Michigan strawberry incident. Like, now I'm like, oh, if I make a joke about an adult toy, I might get in trouble. So James, thank you so much. Yes, I am a fan of Necrostorm. I love like Adam Chaplin and all that stuff. That was one that was that and what's the other one? Tater City were on the docket at the beginning of the year. And that's when YouTube went nuts, right before I made the Adam Chaplin video, which I was glad because I was like, well, at least I didn't make it. So I didn't spend all this time and will not be able to do anything with it. But yes, I do love them. They make really cool stuff. Those guys need more love. Hey, I am the Ice Lord. How are you? Glad you stumbled into the stream, and happy Halloween. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Glad you guys make it to the premieres too. Love you, man. What we got here? I might have. Let me check. I did. Thank you for pointing it out. And thank you for it. Hi, Mike. Ever planning to do a Killers or Convent video? Mike, yes. I would like to do the Convent because I'm a big nunsploitation nut. So, I think those movies are like that whole subgenre exists is just weirdly fascinating to me. Like, that's just proof that like people will think up any kinds of crazy stuff. So, yeah, I would definitely like to do the Convent. I was a Mike fan from like the time he was before that the Convent came out. Like he and I had communicated a few times. Really nice guy. So yes, I'd love to do that one. So, but I don't know when. See, did I miss any others? I don't think so. I think I got them. If I missed one, you got to tell me because I'm not good at reading or paying attention, apparently. Terrifier. Yeah, that's another one on my list today of Halloween movies to watch that aren't the traditional Halloween movies. If you have not seen any of the Art the Clown properties, you should definitely check those out. They're gory. Art, I think I am one of those guys who's like the clown that like, I'm so terrified of clowns thing is just ridiculous. Like I just find clowns stupid, but Art is legitimately terrifying. So if you have not seen Terrifier, it is very good and worth checking out. Some great gore in that movie, just great. The Prison, Chris. Yeah, I don't have a copy of it, so that might be hard for me too. I will have to go into my network and see if I can find anyone who has a copy I can borrow. But I would definitely consider doing that. I am not an art expert, but he is also in All Hallows Eve, which is like a little anthology film. And I believe it's a different actor who plays him. He's in a couple of the sort of like little anthology and it pops up in places before Terrifier happens. But I'm like 99% sure he's in All Hallows Eve, but I get them confused. So don't hold me to it. Yes, I love Bone Tomahawk. And that's another one I get requests for in spurts. The problem with that is that it's too long. Not too long in the sense that it's too long to be a good movie. It's too long for the show. I struggle with when I write scripts with like trying to keep the videos at 20 minutes or less because I can't kill my own darlings. Like I love all my own jokes so much. I can't bear to part with any of them. And so the scripts end up really long. And so like a 90-minute movie often comes in at like a 3,000 word script, which equals about, I mean, depending on how it cuts together with the B-roll footage. Like if there's just me talking over B-roll, it's shorter. If there's a lot of stuff where I play the sound and I'm not talking, it ends up being longer. But those usually 3,000 words ends up like 18 to 20 minutes. And that's what I get on average for a 90-minute movie. So when I think about things like I Saw the Devil or Bone Tomahawk or some of the longer movies where they're over 2 hours, it's like, I don't know how I could, and they take a long time to write on top of it. So like a 90-minute movie takes me 10 hours to script on average, with just figuring out all the jokes and stuff like that. So, yeah, so those would be fun to do. And with an editor, maybe I can figure out, because I'd have more time to spend on the scripts and things like that. And it wouldn't be me cutting them where it takes me forever to edit like if a video ends up over 20 minutes, that's like, every 3 minutes of video is like an hour of me editing on average, at least, because I suck. So, but if somebody was faster and good, maybe that could happen. But I do love that movie. I have not. Like I am behind on stuff like you would not believe. I haven't seen Midnight Mass yet. There's like a ton of stuff on streaming now that I have not seen because I spend so much time just watching stuff for the show and writing it that like the new stuff is kind of like, oh, I need to see that. I'll get to it, but then I just don't. So unfortunately, not yet. Well, thank you, Shauna. Some people hate them. Most of you do not. The silly thing about the show is like, that's what I want it to be. Like I have lectured on these films, like in academic arenas. Like I have been at universities as a guest lecturer to talk about horror films. Nowhere. I haven't been to Harvard. I've just been to some, rinky-dink little schools, not to make fun of those schools, but like I have been asked to come in and talk about film studies and horror films and things like that for college courses. And so I have done the whole writing academic thing. But like when I came to YouTube, it was like, I just want to do like a goofy horror host Mystery Science Theater 3000 show where it's not like I can tell you cool things about the movies, but I just want to have a goofy good time with it and be like hanging out with friends. So I'm glad you feel that way about it. Some people just don't get that the jokes are supposed to be stupid. That's the secret of the show. It's like, sometimes I will write a joke like the Gary Coleman joke in Phantasm, and I'll go, oh, that's actually funny. Like, it actually amuses me. But a lot of times the amusement is, oh my God, this joke is so bad, or this pun is so bad that it's funny. And some people on YouTube just do not get that concept. Like, they think that I think the jokes are Jerry Seinfeld quality, and I do not. The joke of the jokes is that they're bad. So, but I'm glad people appreciate them. Oh, come on. Why can't I say Halloween 3? I don't like these. I don't like these stipulations, guys. You guys are stipulating things to me. It makes me uncomfortable. Seriously, the worst. There's so much bad shit now. Like, if you cruise through Netflix or YouTube or Tubi's horror section, like, there's a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that you're like, how did this ever get made? But for me, the throwback is still Manos without the Mystery Science Theater commentary. Like, I have sat through Manos, The Hands of Fate, without the jokes. That's a rough ride. But I could probably pick like 100 other ones that would fit in there too, that would just kill you with how bad they are. So, all right. Stu Oxen, just happened upon your video on the Beyond last week, and I've been blasting through your channel all week. It's coming like a giant hairy-sided pimp hand across the chops. Thank you so much for that. I'm delighted you found the channel and you've been binging the content. It's funny because, like, I sometimes I'm like, God, I have like 130 videos now. You can actually really have like a long binge if you wanted to. So, and like, I am my own worst critic, but like, and I look at the old videos and I go, God, I'm so terrible. And I still look at today's videos and go, God, I'm just less terrible. But I'm glad that, like, you can go back to something as old as the Beyond, and it was good enough to get you to watch more, because now when I look at that video, I'm like, God, I should remake that video, except when I remade Stage Fright, nobody watched it. So I probably won't, but I'm glad somebody found it entertaining still. Hopefully I've gotten better. But I appreciate that. Like, it's like this weird double-edged sword to kind of go, like I had videos that I made, and that was the best I could do. And like, you keep trying to grow and you want more videos because it's just good to have more videos for people to discover you. But sometimes I look back at those old videos and just want to die. And some of those are my most popular videos. So well, thank you. I do. Even back then, the problem is for me is not so much the time and thought. Like, I understand the films and I understand kind of how to tell the jokes, as terrible as they are. But like, for me, the hurdle is always the video production end. I'm a writer. I'm a guy who writes stuff and can maybe talk a little bit in public, not very well, judging by the outtakes. But the video production is always the hurdle for me. That's why the sound was screwed up for like 4 weeks, like a month ago. Or sometimes the video is lit incorrectly. It's always lit incorrectly because my lights are terrible. But yeah, but like early on, there was like a whole learning curve of not only the video process, but how to be on camera. Because even though I'd been on TV, you don't realize until you start filming yourself a lot that, like, no matter, like, they always say that camera adds 10 pounds. In my case, it adds about 50. But the other thing they don't tell you is that being on camera mutes you in a weird way. Like, all your actions are like more subdued. Like, I will be at the podium and think like, man, I'm nailing it. I'm really high energy today. And then you go back and you watch the video and it's like, I sound like I took sleeping pills. So, and there was a lot of that early on. Like, you learn that you really have to oversell everything on camera for it to come through. I don't know why that is, but yeah, but thank you. I do. I try to get better. That's the best I can do. Yes. Frizzy, he doesn't get enough credit, because he gets overshadowed by Goblin, but some of his scores are fantastic, and the Beyond is one of those. So it is. So this is one of my favorite things about the show. I love recurring gags, and I love tiebacks to other things and little Easter eggs and things like that. And I think that's what a lot of YouTubers don't get, that have like a consistent show, and why their shows sometimes they're like, I don't understand why my show's not working, and it's like, it's a good show. But a lot of times the secret sauce is if you can find things that your audience likes, that you can continue to integrate into future videos. And like, since I already like that, and like, you know, I always think like Howard Stern, Baba Booey, all that stuff. He has like a million things that they do, that they just continually do, and people just love them, and they never get tired of them. And so that was always kind of my goal. And I do that in my real life anyway. Like, I have a Simpsons quote for like everything in my daily life, or, you know, the hell yeah guy, Danny, you know, that was a happy accident, but I was always trying to find those things. And that's one of the important things. And I'm always looking for new ones. So I just, at some point, all my videos are just going to be just one in joke after another with nothing else, because I will just have gone insane with it. But I'm glad someone appreciates it. Thank you, Spectre. Hello from Florida. I'm glad the jokes make you chuckle. Like, it's so weird because like the jokes make me chuckle. But I often, like, I know there are definitely people who are very vocal about telling me they hate the jokes, and sometimes guys will be like, well, I'd like your channel so much more if you just told me the factual stuff. And I get it. I could do that. And sometimes my life would be easier if I did, but the jokes are just like, I don't know, they're just fun. Like, I'm such a big dork anyway, that like doing them is, you know, it just makes the show fun for me. Like, if I just wrote straight like reviews, I would get bored. I would not have done this show for 3 years without, like, the jokes are the challenge. Like, how bad a pun can I find or think of, or, you know, or what in joke can I make up next? Tony Cornflakes, you are old. Where are you at that it's almost your bedtime? Here in Florida, it's 4:15. Did you get out for the early bird special? Are street lights on? Hang on here. A comment. I saw a comment, I can't find it now, about street trash. And I'm glad you liked that video. That video is very difficult to do. That's one of the, generally when I'm on such a tight schedule that when I decide to do a video, I sit down and have to do it, because there's no time to audible to a different movie if it's not working. So I have to make it work, which is really a good thing as far as, you know, just learning to put your nose to a grindstone and be creative and not sit around and wait for inspiration to happen. But with Street Trash is one of the only films where I started a script and I got probably like 40 minutes into the movie and quit. I was like, it just wasn't working. I felt like it wasn't funny, and I couldn't make it funny. And like, the movie is already funny, and I was really struggling with it. And so I just scrapped the script completely. I just hit save. I was like, well, I better keep it just in case. And that's just one where like 6 months later, I'm like, I need a movie. Maybe we should just look at Street Trash this week and see if I can figure it out. And the second time, sometimes it's just different. Like, your mindset is different. And so the second time through, it went much better. Like, some of the first script is in the script, the actual video, but a lot of it I had to just redo. And it was just like, the day I was trying to do it, wasn't in the right mind frame, couldn't find the through lines of the movie, and had to stop. But I'm glad people like it. Well, thank you. Yeah, like, and that's always funny to me because I feel like such a dork all the time. Like, so I look at guys on YouTube who are like Dead Meat James. He's so slick and polished, and, you know, Spooky and all those guys. And I'm just like a big dork with a beard. But I'm glad people like it. So, and maybe the big dork with a beard is the charisma. You know, maybe that's part of it. So, I like that. I'm appreciative of that. Simpsons is life. Like, there's literally a Simpsons quote for every situation. I do, Matt. I try not to. Like, you know, it is what it is. It's what I do, and I'm pretty okay at it. And like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, maybe the show is just not for you. Like, I'm not bothered if you don't like it. I'd rather you not tell me. Like, I don't need to know, because like there's this weird sense of entitlement on YouTube where people are like, well, I'm going to tell you the jokes suck and how you should do it better, and you should do that. And it's like, well, my channel is modestly successful doing what I do, so I'm not going to change it and alienate 50,000 people because you'd like it a different way. But like, some people just don't get that. Like, I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird, but, yeah. And I don't get it a lot. Like, I say all the time, like, people, when I started, were like, never go into your comment section, never go down there. You'll want to kill yourself, or, I can't say that. You'll probably want to do terrible things. And I was like, no, I'm going down there. I'm not scared. I'm a big dude. So I've been in some flame wars in my day, and instead 99.9% of my comments are fantastic. You guys are all great. I love you all. The point one I can deal with. Like, I'll just take your point one. If you're a jerk off, I'll just take your comment and copy it onto, Twitter and post it there, and everybody will laugh at you. So that's great. Like, I don't care. But yeah, it's just, but I don't understand the mentality behind, like, you have this channel, but I'm going to tell you how you should be doing it because I don't like the way you're doing it. Well, I'm like, there's like a billion YouTube channels. Go find the one you like. Like, I'm sure there's at least 10 of them. So, but this is just, people are weird. This is my favorite pastime, Neil. If I stop criticizing myself, I won't have anything to do. Honestly, I don't ever think of it as criticizing myself. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm very introspective, and I examine everything I do, and I'm always trying to figure out, like, nothing is ever quite, nothing's ever perfect. That's just life. And so I'm always looking at it and thinking how I can be better, or how I can make the channel better. And I'm always happy to talk about that, because I think, like, a lot of people are afraid to kind of talk, we live in a social media world where everybody wants to put on their best, my life's perfect and everything's perfect, and I live in an Instagram photo, and my studio's a mess. Like, if I could pan around, you'd see wires everywhere. So I like to share that. So, because, like, sometimes for me, it's inspiring to hear that other people are also having issues or struggling, or things that they want to get better at, because, like, to think that everybody's just nailing it and I'm like, know what the struggle is sometimes disheartening. So I like to share that in case any of you are feeling like, man, Mike's so polished and I couldn't do YouTube because, man, he's got it all together. These guys got it all together. No, I'm a disaster most of the time, but I get it done, and so can you. So that's it. That's all. They are. So this is where so many people screw up YouTube. And, like, I don't know if any of you ever want to do YouTube, but if you ever do, I'd be happy to help you with, like, advice, because I have made all the mistakes. But the thing that people screw up on YouTube is they make a channel, and they make a channel thinking the channel is about them, and it's not. The channel is about you and an audience, and the audience is arguably more important than you. And if you can't connect with the audience, no one is coming back, unless you're like a how-to channel. Like, if you can answer, like, how to fix my toilet, yeah, I might watch your video and not care that I don't connect with you. But, like, all these vloggers and entertainment channels that don't make it, it's because they put this wall up between them and the audience, and they don't connect with the audience, and they don't think about the audience. And, like, you guys are the whole reason the channel exists. I can make videos and put them out, but if nobody watches them, doesn't matter, right? So it's a relationship. And so, yes, I'm all about community and camaraderie. So that's part of why the in jokes are there, because, like, now we have this little club. Like, you guys get hell yeah, and you guys know what I'm talking about when I say pimp hand, and like, new people will come in and learn the lingo, and then they'll feel part of it too. So that's just the magic. That's the secret of YouTube. I have just given you the secret to be modestly successful on YouTube. I hope you were taking notes. No costume this year. I got lazy. And I apologize. Like, we were going to do the whole Viking thing, and I was going to braid up the beard and the face paint, and it was so hot. And I was just like, screw this, man. I can't. And I stand behind a podium. So I learned my lesson last year that nobody could see what I was because I stand behind a podium. So I will probably dress up tomorrow night to give out candy. But yeah. I love to dress up, but for some reason I can't. I couldn't get to it this year. Like this October has just been, it's flown by and I've been unprepared for everything. There's probably a lot of truth to that. Yeah, like, and I don't know. I'm not smart enough to be philosophical. Like I'm a modestly smart guy, but the guys I know, like my girlfriend's son is in grad school, is a philosophy major, and he's smart. Like he understands all that stuff. But I believe that you have to constantly evaluate, like, and you can get caught up in evaluating too much, but you do have to push the limits, and that's usually with yourself. So yeah, I agree with that. This really got philosophical today. I did not mean for that to happen. What is your least favorite horror genre? Japanese girl ghosts. Yeah, like, and that's funny. It's mostly just because we got so many of them in such short order. Like that whole, but we had that stretch where they, the Ring started it all, and then we got a bunch of them, like The Grudge and all that, and then we got the inevitable American remakes, and yeah, if I never have to sit through an angry Japanese girl ghost movie again, I'm probably all right with that. So, yeah, the other one is like the stuff that came after Scream, the sort of postmodernist meta slasher films. Like, I don't dislike them, but they're not like a lot like Scream and maybe like the first I Know What You Did Last Summer are movies that I will watch and like feel some kind of nostalgia and affection for. But a lot of the other stuff, like the urban legends and the sequels and the what was the other one? There were some other ones in there. Those ones I have less desire to watch anymore. I don't know, Rob, but how are you? Best Stephen King horror movie. The obvious answer is Kubrick's The Shining. The other answers that I think are also in the running, Cronenberg's Dead Zone and Carpenter's Christine. And as far as like King movies that I really like that aren't in this discussion but I still like them, Rose Red. I really like Rose Red. Like it feels like a Shining spinoff. And I like, it's weird that it's a made for TV movie because it's pretty, I think it's pretty cool. I like all the little backstory hidden stuff he sprinkles in there. I like the house. I think it's pretty cool. Well, thank you. I'm always looking forward to Wednesdays because I love releasing them and like having people see them and like seeing what they laugh at or what they learn from them or all that stuff. So this is absolutely true. People don't understand, like the sheer amount of times I've had people kind of say to me, well, your videos are 20 minutes long. How long could they take to make? You just sit in front of the camera for 20 minutes and then you upload it to YouTube. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's not quite a TV show, but it is a production. Like my week is regimented to produce a video. Everything revolves around that. There's days of scripting, there's days of research to pick a movie that's probably going to do well on the platform from a search perspective. There's research into what's going to go into the script. Like if I don't know every crazy detail about a movie, believe it or not, I don't know every crazy detail about every horror movie, just a lot of them. I have to do that. Then I have to write it. Writing them takes forever, 10 hours minimum. And then I have to film them, which always takes a while because I screw up a lot. And then there's the whole uploading and processing and then editing. And then you got to take them and upload them to YouTube and deal with all that disaster every week. So it's, yeah, I wish it was 20 minutes. Even your favorite vlogger who puts out a 20-minute video that looks really polished, that's just them taking you through their day, that did not take 20 minutes to make. But it's like a really common misconception. And it's the same thing with like streaming. I tell people, like, I have always had respect for streamers because you know, I had streamed before streaming was cool, like way back in the early days, without a camera or anything, just some game stuff, just playing for like a couple people, and it was work. And now streaming with like the amount of preparation that goes into doing one of these, like, and this is just me talking like an idiot. Like if I were trying to actually put on a show, which I would like to do, it's really hard. It's a lot of effort. You have to be able to juggle a lot of things. So it's yeah. And so when people are like, oh, streamers, that's not a job, go get a real job. And I'm like, I had to learn how to do like 6 jobs to do this. So it's a job. It's work. Perfect Halloween movie for me is Halloween 78. Like that just nails it for me. Like it's got the whole autumn vibe, Michael Myers, like that's just like when I think perfect Halloween movie, that's it. Trick or Treat is very close too. Like it really nails the vibe. Those two just, yeah, that's like Halloween 78 just gets everything to me growing up in that era. When I think of Halloween, that's what I remember Halloween being like, minus some guy in a mask trying to murder everyone, because that would have been weird. Oh, what else have we got here, guys? Oh my goodness, I'm missing. Well, there are a lot of options here. The worst Fulci film is harder to pick for me, because I like a lot of his not good movies. The worst Argento film it's Dracula 3D, but there's competition there. If you told me your worst Argento film was Giallo, I'd say, yeah, I see that. And if you told me it's Do You Love Hitchcock, I'd say, yeah, I absolutely see that. But I think Dracula is really the worst of the worst for Argento. Like the Sega Saturn graphics in it, and just the terrible CG everywhere, and the performances are bad. He wastes Rutger Hauer. It's a mess of a film. I don't know what anyone was thinking when they let that thing out into the world. Like a guy with his pedigree, that it was okay to release that. It's just sort of embarrassing. The worst Fulci is hard because he made so much terrible crap at the end of his career because he just didn't care. I think for me, I'd probably go with The Devil's Honey, but I know there'll be people that have other ones that are equally as valid. I just don't like that film. I don't particularly care for Brett Halsey, who he was absolutely enamored with casting and everything at that stage of his career. So, but yeah, those would be my picks. But again, there's room for other choices in there for sure. I did not see it. I still have not seen it. Part of that is I didn't see it when it came out, and it kind of got pushed off, and now I just keep pushing it off. And because I'm like, do I need to see this? Yes, but there's part of me that's like worried that I'll hate it, and even though everybody I know says it's pretty okay. So, and I like Tilda Swinton, so it's just now it's a matter of just not having time. Like, you know, I spend so much time watching stuff for the show that I don't get to watch a lot of stuff that's not for a production. So. Well, Bruno may be making an appearance on the show again very soon. Very soon. That's a little hint. I love Bruno. I love Claudio Fragasso. Speaking of, I will be on Found Footage Fest channel tomorrow night talking about their Halloween episode of VCR Party is me talking about Italian horror ripoffs of popular American films. So we will obviously be talking about Bruno and Claudio during that segment. So you should tune in. It's like premieres tomorrow night at 9:00 here on YouTube. So definitely check it out. I'll post a link tomorrow if you want to see it. I love Bruno. Look, was he a great filmmaker? No. Did he steal a lot of stuff and splice it into movies? Yes. Are his movies terrible? Mostly. Are they entertaining as hell? Yes. And like, I can't fault him, or like Claudio cracks me up because it's like, he doesn't get that his films are not great. Like, he really believes his films are good. I never got the vibe that Bruno believed he was making great films. Claudio thinks every film was really good, but just something happened that messed it up. And it was always something somebody else did. It was never him. It was always, Bruno messed up Night Killer with that opening scene, or, the producers messed up this, and like every story Claudio tells is really interesting because like when he talks about Zombie 3, he talks about Fulci and how much he loved Fulci, and they were so great, and it was such a great relationship when they worked on Zombie 3. And if you go back and read Fulci's interviews before he died, when they ask him about Zombie 3, he doesn't know Fragasso's name, but he calls him basically an asshole. So I love that, and this is one of the things I love about Italian horror film history, is like, you get all these things now, documentaries and things on discs, and they're interesting, but they're never really the truth. Like, you can go find contradictions in earlier interviews or videos that contradict, that totally go in the face of what the person in the newest one is saying. So it's fascinating. Like, everybody remembers everything differently, but those guys, like, those movies are not good, but they're fun. Like, Hell of the Living Dead is fun. It rips off Dawn of the Dead. It splices in a bunch of stock footage and wastes a bunch of time. But when he actually gets to the point, it's fun. It's gory. It's a good time. So yeah, I love Bruno. And he's been a godsend for this channel. Like, whenever I cover a Bruno movie, it does well. And I will be sad when I run out. Because he is a good guy. I miss him. Yeah, and this is what always makes me laugh about Claudio, is like, and I sometimes think now he's starting to get it. Like, I did not make good films, but people love me because I made terrible films, and I think he's starting to come to terms with that, and he's maybe okay with it, because being loved, even for that, is better than not being loved, right? Yeah, like he made some terrible movies. They're like not good movies, but they're fun. And so that's okay for me. That's all I ask for out of a lot of movies, is just give me a bad movie that's fun. I'm good. YouTube, me. I love The Shining, but it was something different. Carrie was the best, tied with Christine, because they were movies, not a status symbol like The Shining. I can see that. The thing about The Shining, I get, my problem with the Shining stuff that still goes on is that King continually takes pot shots at Kubrick over it. And Stanley's been dead for what? Almost 20 years. Like, let it go. Or he's been dead, like, I think it's over 20 years now. Let it go, man. Like, he's dead. It's over. You got to make your version with Mick Garris. You love it. Nobody else does, but you love it. Great. Like, we like Kubrick's version. But, it's funny that he continually rails on about that. And I get some of his complaints about The Shining. I really do, because I love the book and I love the movie. But when you get to the movie, Kubrick took what was a one type of story and morphed it into something else. And it wasn't the book King wrote. Jack is not the Jack of the book. And I get it. Like, I get his complaints, but I still think it's a really damn good movie. And that's part of that's just because I adore Stanley Kubrick. But the rest of it is it's a good movie. But for me, yeah, I get Carrie is a fun movie. I don't think Carrie is a good movie, but I don't think Carrie was a particularly good book either. But I get why people like it, and it's De Palma, so you can't really go wrong with it. But Christine is always on my list, because that's a Carpenter adaptation that's pretty in the same universe of the book. And that's the same thing with Dead Zone for me, is like, I think Cronenberg really kind of put his own stamp on Dead Zone, but remained really sort of true to the source material. And that's the best thing you can ask for in an adaptation. Favorite sleazy horror film? Well, that depends. Are we talking? Yeah. Are we talking like actual, adult versions of popular horror films, or are we just talking sleazy horror films in general? Because, I don't want to get demonetized, but I'll tell you in private. The only problem with it is, as I mentioned earlier, is that those videos, when I cover movies that are that old, the audience on YouTube just does not click. There's sort of a younger, and even though my audience skews older, that like anytime I cover something before like 1975, it doesn't do well. And the assumption on my end is generally that the audiences look at them and go, these movies are too old, and I'm just not interested in something that's 50 years old now. So, but yeah, I hope to get to a lot of that stuff anyway. Like not everything I do, I don't want everything I do to be sort of based on how it's going to do on YouTube, but there is a part of how YouTube works where you kind of have to play the algorithm game to keep your momentum and keep growing and keep finding a bigger audience of people to appreciate your stuff. So it's a matter of like, I have to just find a way to either make more videos or get sponsors for some of those kind of videos, or just find ways to work them in where we can do one that's just because I want to do it, not because it's necessarily going to be, you know, something that's going to be big for the channel. But I struggle with that because it's hard to fit, like scheduling wise, to fit things in. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's better. They're different, and I love the book. I think the ending of the book is silly. I think Kubrick did a much better job with the ending, but they're radically different stories. Like King is right. In Kubrick's film, you think Jack Nicholson is batshit fucking crazy from the opening scene in the car, and that is not the character he wrote in the book, and so that colors everything differently for the rest of the story in the film. But yeah, like I get it. I get his frustrations with it. But I don't know how you can look at Kubrick's film and go, well, it's bad, but this is sort of something King does. He likes everything at first, and then he kind of, as time passes, he likes it a lot less. And then maybe he comes back to it later. The Shining, I don't think he's ever coming back to. But the thing about The Shining is like, I have to be suspect of everything he thinks now because he thinks the Mick Garris version is better, and it's not. So maybe it's more faithful to his novel, which it is, but it's not a better film. I'm way behind on chat. Yes, it is. I agree. That was one of my first videos that really did kind of well. New York Ripper. Yeah, I would not say that King is not talented. I would definitely say that Kubrick is a better artist. King, you know, the thing I always have liked about King, and I love his books. Like there's a period from like after it until like 11/22/63 where all those books he wrote in there I did not care for. Dolores Claiborne, Gerald's Game, you know, there's a bunch of them in there that I just was not a big fan of. There's a couple in there I like, but like once he got back to like 11/22/63, he kind of found his footing again, I think. But he's very self-deprecating. He gets it. Like he's like, I'm not Ernest Hemingway. Like I write these horror stories and they're very popular and they appeal to a wide audience, and there's certainly some art involved in that, but he doesn't think he's some great writer. Kubrick was a great artist. Like that guy was just incredibly fucking talented. So definitely agree with you. Hey, JK, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Dr. Sleep did have potential. I still haven't seen the movie, but I read the book, and like that was a project that as a writer, you go like, I should not do this, because how do you recapture the sort of magic of something that was as big as The Shining was all these years later? Like there was no way he would ever do anything that would be comparable to The Shining. So I appreciate that he tried to take it in sort of a different direction. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. It did have potential though. Cannibal Holocaust. I like a lot of them though. Like Holocaust is the best. That's the best of the bunch. But I also love, like, how can you not love Cannibal Apocalypse? Because you've got John Morgan and John Saxon running around in it. Ferox is just mean, and I love it for that. It's gory and mean and gruesome and brutal. Eaten Alive, same deal. Eaten Alive is just so insane with its, hey, let's take cannibals in Jonestown and smash them together and see what we get. Yeah, but Holocaust is the best. That's the best of the bunch. Right. It doesn't. I was as excited as anybody to see him, bring back Danny Torrance and where he'd been and what had happened and what his life had been like. And I think the idea of doing it was good. I would have been scared to do it if I was him. I didn't care for the sort of the villains of the piece so much. Uh-oh, what did I just say? That could be a funny sound clip. He did, for the most part. Like he all the Italians went through this thing, like in the late 80s, where the sort of the heyday of Italian horror was ending, and they could not make those kind of films in the same way anymore. So we got things like Nightmare Beach. And Nightmare Beach is sort of fun, but it's not particularly good. And Lenzi certainly phoned some in at the end. See, I never liked Insomnia. That was one of the books that I really never cared for. So best Lenzi movie. I'm gonna go Ferox. I mean, that's my favorite. That's like sort of the perfect Umberto Lenzi experience, Cannibal Ferox. Like when I think of Lenzi, and that's complicated because he's like, you could ask 10 different people and who know this stuff and they will think of him in different ways. Some of us will think of him for cannibal movies. Some of us will think of him for Giallo. Some of us will think of him for Ghost House. So, but all are valid. For me, it's Ferox. Although you could say Nightmare City. Yeah, it is. And that it is. It just doesn't have the cast, or the, like, Mick Garris is not Stanley Kubrick and Steven Weber is not Jack Nicholson and Rebecca De Mornay is maybe a step up from Shelley Duvall. I mean, depending on how you feel about her in The Shining, she's pretty divisive. But it's just, yeah, it's definitely more faithful to the book. Like the hedge maze is in there and all that. The ending is the same as I recall. Like I don't recall all the details of it, but I know the mallet and all that figures in, and the boiler. So yeah. And if, like I say, see both, obviously. If you like the book, you'll like the Garris adaptation because it's more faithful. But I think that as its own entity, the Kubrick film is very good, and I think it's better. Oh, it was Tim Daly? I'm sorry. Or was that for me? I think he has the greatest name ever. And I never get tired of saying it. We do need more werewolf movies. Yeah. We need some Paul Naschy movies on the channel. I just never get to them. Yeah, see, this is also, yeah, his cop movies are also very good. So like, depending, your answer for best Lenzi film really is like, could be 20 different movies depending on how you view him as a filmmaker, because he made so many different films and he made good films in a lot of different genres. Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, thank you. those were supposed to be placeholders just till I figured out what I wanted my set to be, and we're 3 years later and they're still up there. We are going to at least paint the wall at some point in the next couple weeks so that the whole wall is painted, and then we'll go from there. The one in the remake or the original? The kid in the remake does have a weird mouth. He's like a little, like, sort of like fishy. Yeah, I'll second that. Check out Late Phases. That's a good movie. Yeah, this is where all the slasher sequels go off the rails is because, yeah, you make Halloween and it's a complete story, and the beauty of Halloween is if they ended Halloween 1, we're talking about it forever because it's the rare movie where this guy gets shot, falls off a balcony, all this stuff, and he lives. And like, that's the terrifying thing about the end of Halloween. The first time you see it is like, oh my God, he's still out there. He's still alive. He could be coming for me next. And then everybody wants to make a sequel for something that was just a self-contained story. And you end up like, how do I continue this story? And we have to create a backstory and all that. And then that's how you end up with, well, he was after her because she's his sister, which is stupid. And, because like, why would I be scared of him now? I'm not related to him. I don't care. If he shows up and his sister's here, I'll send her out because I'm a jerk. But yeah, so yeah, they try to take these things, and so that's why I've always thought like if I ever wrote a slasher movie, it would be funny to like for me to do it because I would just map out the entire mythology beforehand before writing the first movie, because that way when they come along and want to sequelize it, we don't have to do that. Like there's a cohesiveness to it. That's what Williamson claimed he did with Scream, but that was clearly not true. Ah, yes, thank you. Storm of the Century. I liked Storm of the Century. I've only seen it once, but yeah, I was like, man, I know that's Steven Weber, but I was too lazy to go look it up. Thank you for the clarification, James. I appreciate that. You're going to be excited in a few weeks, Robert. Yeah, every time he's on screen, I say it too. Now I used to like the first time I saw Anthropophagus, I was like, like the money scenes are worth it, right? Like they live up to the hype, like him eating his guts and the baby and all that. But like the rest of the movie is like, not really great. But I have come to love it more over the years on repeated viewings, and now I just really like it. And it's not just because of Danny, but Danny helps. But I think it genuinely has like a really interesting sort of atmosphere. Everybody thinks it's slow when they're on the island, but to me, it's kind of creepy that this whole island is empty and they're just sort of stuck there. So me too. I love all of Shinya Tsukamoto's movies, though. He is an interesting filmmaker. That is also correct. That's one I'd like to talk about. Like, I don't know if I would do it on Sick Flicks with the jokes, but like, I would love to do, if I had time to do a second show, I would do a show where I talked about some of these other films that maybe without the jokes as much, more of the just like why these films are important and why you should see them. And there would be some jokes in them, just not as many. I'm missing a bunch of chats here. This thing scrolls really slow for some reason. Oh, they're never happening. That's not true. They might happen. I like Aftermath so much more. I think both of those movies suck. I think George is incredibly overrated. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I do not care for his films. I can't believe that somebody took that subject matter and made it so boring. Yeah, someone else, Wet Dog, asked me about Coffin Joe this week. I love Coffin Joe. I have said numerous times that I would love to do At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul because, again, it falls in, those early films of his fall in with H.G. Lewis's is like the first gore films, even though by today's standards, they're incredibly quaint. They're super important films, and Coffin Joe is just a fascinating character who would be fun to talk about the movies and him. I don't know. I want to do them. I don't know how they'll do on the channel, so we may try one at some point, but I've kind of held off on it because Lewis did not go over very well. I think it's a respectable attempt to mimic and pay homage to the classic Italian cannibal films. I don't love it, but I think as an attempt, it's clear. This is the thing, like Rob Zombie and Eli Roth, they're like the same issue. Like they clearly love the material, even if they're not always capable of making something on par with that classic material they love. But I think it's interesting that he tried to make a big budget mainstream cannibal film. I have not. Shorts are funny. Like I'm always like, oh, I should watch shorts because they're short and I don't have a lot of time. And then I never get around to it. I'll have to check him out or her. All right. What else have we got here? Yeah, I didn't either. Like, it's not something I'm like dying to ever see again. But like when I was done with it, I was like, oh, that was all right. Like, and sometimes that's fine. Like, I don't need every movie to be a classic. So, sometimes it's just nice to watch something that's like, well, that didn't require a lot of me other than my attention for 90 minutes and gave me some gore and all that. It's certainly not his best film and it's not even in his top 5, but I liked it well enough. It's all right. Don't worry about it. That's the hard part of doing the show sometimes is like I know things and like my brain and mouth don't always work together and I'll say the wrong thing or I get things wrong all the time. Nothing at the moment, but I keep talking about finally starting Midnight Mass. So I did go through Squid Game, which I really liked, which we talked about last time. But yeah, beyond that, nothing. But yeah, I haven't seen the new Creep Show this season. Although I'm really mixed on Creep Show, I got to be honest. Like I thought the Evil Dead episode in season 2 was really good, but a lot of weeks I'm like, oh, this is like not what I want it to be. So. Yeah, me too. Like that's a divisive topic, but I love his Halloween 2, which is a movie most people hate. So maybe I'm like Stephen King. Maybe you can't trust my opinion either because I like a lot of crap. But I think you can because I'll tell you it's crap. I'll just tell you why it's good crap. Hellraiser sequels, they're a disaster after 2. That's not entirely true. 2 is the last good one. And I kind of I vacillate on how good it is. Like sometimes I think it's better than the first film, and sometimes I think the first film is better. 3 is a disaster, but 3 has like a lot of cool. 3 is a disaster in the same way that like Nightmare on Elm Street 3 could be sort of. Not that I think Elm Street 3 is a disaster. I should clarify that before I say this controversial thing. But like that's the evolution where Freddy becomes like wisecracking and an anti-hero and a smart ass. And the same thing sort of happens in Hellraiser 3. You start to see Pinhead become like not the cool badass Pope of Hell, but like the badass Pope of Hell who will, fire off a one-liner type thing or something that's sort of funny, which is always weird to me. But I have said many times that I love the first part of Bloodline where they're making the box back in France during the Revolution. And if they'd have made an entire movie out of that, I'd have watched the hell out of it because that was the most interesting Hellraiser thing outside of like the first 2 films in the entire run. And as you go on, the sequels get worse. And I have only seen like Hellworld and Deader and a lot of those sequels one time, and that was enough. So I wish they were better. I think I clicked the wrong one there. Sorry. What we got here? Oh, that's Peter Bark, who was in Burial Ground, Knights of Terror. That's the one you're thinking of. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that's true for the first two. I think, I think, I think once you get past the first two, that is definitely a valid criticism. I don't think the first film has an awful plot. I think it's, um, is it the best plot? No, but I don't think it's awful. I think the idea of the Cenobites and the mythology and how they come into the world is pretty interesting. But, and then Hellraiser 2, I think is interesting because I love that cheesy apocalyptic grandeur of, you know, we have to go into hell and hell is this cold, sterile place and all that. But yeah, I think once you get past that, you don't even get the fantastic imagery anymore. So yeah, that's true. And I think that's because like you write a story in one that's self-contained, and then by two, you can maybe tack on a little bit to it and still make it feel organic. And by three, you have had to mutate and retcon so many things into a story to make it continue to work as a continuation of that first part of the story that there's just not really a good way to do it unless you planned it out in advance. So. For me, Brain Dead. Like I love Bad Taste, but man, Brain Dead, Dead Alive is like that's the pinnacle of gore movies for most people. Yeah, Hellraiser 3 is almost an action movie, honestly. Like, yeah, Pinhead is it's a weird movie. And like the worst part of it is like they decided to give him new Cenobites and they didn't put like 5 minutes of thought into them, like, oh, cameraman and CD head. And it's like they're Masters of the Universe toys. Like you could literally feel like somebody from the He-Man team was sitting in the script room going, well, we can merchandise these. People will buy camera head man and CD head and, you know, the barbed wire guy. And yeah, they're not good. Yeah, they did. Woo, Jaws 3 is the pinnacle of the series. And then Jaws 4 happened. And then we got Cruel Jaws. So that's a right up the chart. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I love Elm Street 3. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Elm Street 3 is bad. That's the point where Freddy morphs and in 3 it's not that bad. Like in 3 he's still kind of scary and it's still pretty cool, but you see him, that's the beginning of Freddy kind of moving from scary to anti-hero, and I really like Scary Freddy. Like I think Freddy in the first Elm Street, the coolest thing about him is he's scary. But 3 is fun. It's a fun movie. What else have we got here? Jaws 4, the soap opera. Yes. All that fighting on the island. No, you can't go on a date with Hoagie because his name is Hoagie and I will not let you go out with a sandwich. So I did not actually. My parents were going to take me because I was such a Jaws fan. My dad was going to take me. And I remember seeing like the preview, must have been before Return of the Jedi, maybe. And I just, even from the preview, like I could tell like, oh, this is going to suck. I don't want to go see this. So I didn't see it till it came out on video. And it was absolutely bad. Yes, more Franco films are coming. I don't know which ones or when, but they're on the list. My goal for next year is to try to make more videos. I don't know how that's going to work out. Am I pausing and buffering occasionally? Because on my end I am, and I don't know if I am for you guys. But yeah, my goal is to do that to try to get more videos next year. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's my goal. So I would like to, if I can do that, then I can get the things like more Franco and all that. Oh, good. No buffering there. Good. Thank you. I just keep seeing my preview and it keeps buffering occasionally. And I'm like, oh, I hope it's not doing that in the stream. Good deal. I'll quit looking at my end. Just tell me if I'm buffering, and I'll never see it because my chat's all screwed up, but I'll appreciate it anyway. Oh, that's a great topic. Oh, what's the first movie you saw on a VCR? For me, it was Poltergeist. Yeah, we got my parents. Must have been 82 when VCRs like where first you could go rent them, and you like had to sign your life over to rent one for the weekend. And we got they brought one home, and it was like the most amazing. Like my movie loving young horror fan Mike's mind was completely blown by the VCR. Like it was the greatest thing ever. My dad's cousin, the year before, it was a well-to-do accountant in Pittsburgh, had bought one when they were like thousands of dollars, and we'd been at his house and he was showing it to us, and how you can stop it and you can rewind it and you can pause it, and my like young mind was absolutely blown by the VCR. And so we rented one, and literally you had to like sign your life away. Like you had to put deposits down and sign all these papers and stuff. And we rented Poltergeist, Disney's The Black Hole, and something else that I do not remember. But Poltergeist was the first thing we saw. And my parents, for some reason, had to screen it before we could watch it. Like they had to make sure it wasn't too scary. So yeah, but yeah, Poltergeist. So what do we got here for that? Ooh, Rocky 3. That's a good first one. Oh, I don't think that was an answer. Wow, The Burning. Nice. Alien. Alien's a funny story because we did not see Alien on the VCR. We saw Alien on HBO. So we had friends who we lived in the boonies at the time, and so we didn't have cable or anything like that because I was like, yeah, we're running cable out there. Yeah, right. So we had friends who lived closer to the city, and they did have cable, and so like if something good, like you would get the HBO magazine that would come every month, a little TV guide just for HBO that had everything that was showing on HBO and every time and descriptions. And like, I would go to their house and I would study that thing like it was the Bible. Like, oh my God, these movies, all these movies I had never got to see or going to be on a TV and you could just watch them. I wanted cable so bad. But so like they would look through that thing and they go, oh, this movie's premiering on HBO on Saturday night. Everybody should come over and watch it. And so we'd load up, and when Alien premiered, that was one we all went for. And for some reason I didn't get to watch it, but like my parents and my parents' friends and my aunt and uncle watched it. And my uncle is terrified of horror movies, which is kind of hilarious. But he will jump and scream and everything. Like he is scared. He gets scared of that stuff. Like he has a funny reaction to it, and it's legit, which makes it funnier. It's not like he's doing it for the laughs. But we go there and we watch it, and I can just hear him screaming like through the entire last half of the movie, which was almost as much fun as getting to see the movie, even though I didn't. But yeah, that was a good one to see on VCR first. Rambo 3. I saw Rambo 3 at the theater, actually. I think I saw 2 at the theater as well. Dance Fever. Wow. Beta. Yeah. That was the big debate back in the day. Do I get a VHS or do I get a beta? And I was like, we always want a beta, but even then you could tell like VHS was going to win. So we never got a beta. We had other friends who had a beta. Actually, the first time I saw Highlander was on a beta. Wow, Predator. You must be young. That's later. Oh, yeah. What is that? We saw that early on too. Oh crap, what is that movie called? Where he sneaks into Russia and steals it? Oh, I can't remember what that's called. But I remember seeing it. And it's funny because like we didn't like my parents would get one, like all the rent a VCR, like all the time. Like after we got the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so that was like a common thing we would do is they would rent it because it was an easy way to like, have a weekend's entertainment without having to spend a ton of money. But my parents would also not often rent things I wanted to see. So I got to see a lot of movies, but they were movies like the Clint Eastwood steals the plane from Russia movie, which was not what I wanted to see. They would not rent me My Bloody Valentine or Jim Cotta, but yeah, or ninja movies. Yeah, right. Those things are those literally like the Bible. Like I would go to the friend's house. Like sometimes we'd go stay because they had horses, and they'd be like, "Come over and go horse riding." I'm like, "I don't want to go horse riding. I'm just coming over to watch your HBO." So I'd get there, and the first thing I want to do is like, "Hey, where's that new HBO catalog? I got to look through there and figure out what's on when." And they'd always tell you like what it was, like what it was rated and what it had in it, so you knew if it was worth watching. Like, oh, there's nudity and blood and violence. That's a winner. So. Oh God. What a childhood I had. My grandmother was who would literally rent me whatever I wanted. That she is why I am the horror geek. She is a big part of that. Like I would go stay with her for the summer, and literally I would rent the 3 different stores' entire horror sections over the summer. And it was just like, that was my education. And then it was like Charles Bronson movies, like The Evil That Men Do and 10 to Midnight. This is why I love 10 to Midnight, because I'm like 11 years old watching 10 to Midnight, which I absolutely probably should not have been watching 10 to Midnight at 11. But here we are. I came out okay. Yes. My grandmother passed 2 years ago, and I am still not oddly, I'm still devastated about it. Like, it took me a long time to come to terms with it. I wish she was around, because she would have loved this channel. And she would have been like just totally proud of the fact that she contributed to my delinquency, but I turned it into a job. Yes. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man? Everybody say hello to Chris, who, as you know, helps write some of the funniest jokes in the videos. He's getting better than me at this point. Yeah, those magazines, that was my thing, man. I couldn't wait to just, because like it was like a little film education too. Like you wouldn't know what all these movies were, and here's the title, and here's a nice little description, and who's in it, and whether it's bloody or sexy or violent or what genre it is. So those things are like must read for me as a kid, because I was that much of a nerd. Yeah, see, grandmas are great. And like I have never been that way with my daughter and my stepdaughter. My stepdaughter is like, she loves horror movies. She loves hip hop like I do. She got the full, like I never held anything back. Like she loves weird Japanese horror and gory stuff. And my daughter is the same. She doesn't love hip hop, but she loves horror movies. And it's because like, one of my fondest memories of being a dad was like, my daughter is like 2, and she's sitting on my lap, and I'm watching Evil Dead 2, and she's laughing with me at, Bruce Campbell chopping his hand off. And so, like, I think it's good to, like, I think we hurt kids by like trying to keep everything away from them. Yeah. I would like to do that movie on Sick Flicks. It's not super duper gory, but it's just wild and fun, and Bronson is just out of control in it. It's like peak Charles Bronson. Like it's a slasher movie. I mean, it's based basically on the Richard Speck murders, and it's basically a slasher movie and a cop movie rolled into one. And goddamn, is it fun? Oh, yeah. I'm glad someone else appreciates that. Occasionally I run into people who appreciate 10 to Midnight, and it always makes me happy. Yeah, see, grandmas are great. Like mine would literally, we would go there for the summer and stay, and she would take me to the video store every day, and I would come out with a stack of tapes, and we'd go home and watch them, and then she'd go, well, we should probably get a second VCR so we can just start copying these so you can keep them. And so like by the end of the summer, like I had all my Sho Kosugi Ninja movies and American Ninja and, all the Elm Street movies and all the Halloweens. And, it was just like a constant stream of like going to the video store, renting movies, coming home, watching them. And like that was like going to film school for me. Like this is where I learned, like I paid attention to who directed things and who wrote things. And I'd remember like, oh, this guy did this. And that was because she just let me see this stuff. She's like, yeah, you're smart. You're old enough. You can see it. So, and that was pretty much it. Oh, wow. First off, thank you, Smogfrost. I appreciate the super chat. I do not appreciate such a difficult question, though. Oh, this is a real Sophie's choice right here. Man. I'm going to go Sid Haig. But this is impossible. These are all great actors, great character actors, which are my favorite. Like, you can keep your Hollywood stars. I don't give a shit about Brad Pitt. I like character actors. So I don't care about the big celebrities at all. Maybe like Clooney, I kind of, Clooney's never going to get me to go to a movie. Like, but if Clooney's in a movie, I usually like him. But like, I'm never going to go, oh, I need to go see the new George Clooney movie. But like character actors, that's my thing. Like I will go like Lance Henriksen. Like if Lance Henriksen's in something, I don't care. It'll be terrible. I know the odds are that it will suck, but I'm going to go see it because Lance Henriksen's in it. So, yeah. So all of these guys have that same thing for me. I would go see anything that these guys are in, but I think I go with Sid because I think he's the best actor of the bunch. And plus, it's crazy to me that Sid Haig was in Jason of Star Command when I was a kid. So he gets bonus points for that. Have you guys ever seen that? I used to like that show for some reason. It's not good, but he was in it. I had a Laserdisc until just a couple years ago. I don't now, but I did until like 2010. I still had Laserdiscs and a Laserdisc player. That was really, so you think like, okay, I rented a ton of movies on VHS and that was a film school education. The real film school education back then was Laserdisc, because Laserdisc was the only format where you were getting like extras and commentary tracks and all that shit that you were just not getting on TV or on cable or on VHS. And like, yeah, I was a sucker to sit down and listen to commentary tracks. Like, and there were a lot of guys my age who became filmmakers who will tell you the same thing, that they first learned about making movies by listening to commentary tracks on Laserdiscs. So. That's true. Why don't we have Charles Bronson jokes like we have Chuck Norris jokes? Because I don't know. I think Bronson's every bit as much of a badass as Chuck Norris is. Probably more. Oh, you love it. Don't act like you don't love it. Yeah. See, my parents weren't strict about them. Like, they weren't like, we aren't going to let you see this so much. I mean, in some ways they were, but they just didn't want to pay for it a lot of time. They're like, we're going to rent the movies we all want to see, and nobody wants to watch that crap you watch. And like sometimes they would rent a horror movie for me or whatever. But yeah, like I was not getting the amount of film viewing experience I was wanting in the early days, and grandma filled that void for sure. Fangoria was so good back in the 80s, man. That was the other thing. Like I would go to the grocery store with my parents, not because I wanted to go to the grocery store, and God knows they wouldn't buy me a Fangoria, but because while they were taking an hour getting all the groceries, I could stand at the magazine rack and read Fangoria. So, and then we would go to school and I'll talk about the things we saw on Fangoria. And that was a good time. Yeah, my grandmother took me to the movies as well. I am one of like 10 people on planet Earth who saw Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin in a movie theater in 3D because my grandmother took me because I wanted to go. And my parents had been like, "We're not going to see that shit. Are you high?" So grandma was like, "Sure, let's go. We'll go tonight. Here, we'll get tickets, popcorn, all of it." So and she rented me Delta Force. Hey Herman, shout out from Florida. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're having a good time. So, did I miss a super chat? Let me see. I think I did. I'm so bad at this. I'm sorry. Hydroponic. I did miss one. See that? Top 5 horror movies. This is tough. I only know the top 3 and it changes. Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed Jennifer back here too. I'm sorry, Jennifer. Thank you. I'm glad you love the videos and the beard. Somebody complained, and I remember earlier. I'll get back to you in just a second, Hydroponic, I swear. Somebody this week actually had posted a comment, and I shared it on social media because I was talking about how I'm a vindictive jerk, complaining about my beard. First off, my beard is like, why are you worried about my beard, right? Like, you don't have to wear it. You don't have to groom it. You don't have to kiss my face, right? So, but like, I'm glad people like it. But it just strikes me as so insane that somebody would complain about my beard, like somebody who doesn't even like know me or see me in life or anything. Like, so, but I'm glad other people like it. And honestly, the pro beard comments are like 1,000 to 1, but I was just stunned that somebody would take the time and think it was like, okay, to tell me that they didn't like my beard. And like, what am I supposed to do with this information? Am I supposed to go shave? I don't understand when they do that. All right. Hydroponic, back to you, my man. Top 5 horror movies. I can do the top 3 for sure. Suspiria, and these are in no particular order because it changes all the time. Suspiria, Jaws, Halloween 78. Halloween 78 and Jaws are where they are because of them being influential films that were influential on me because I saw them way too young. And learned about them way too young. And so there's that like childhood nostalgia, plus they're just really great movies. So, hang on one second here. So, yeah, so those 3 are the top 3. And they're really good movies. Like, I don't know, like you may not like Halloween or you may not like Jaws, although if you don't like Jaws, I don't know 3 people who don't like Jaws, but so those are like solid choices. And Suspiria is Suspiria. I love Argento. I think it's a beautiful film. I didn't love it the first time I saw it, but beyond that, it gets real dicey because there are just too many options. So a lot of times it kind of breaks down by subgenre or things like that. Like I love Suave's Stage Fright is like one of my favorite slashers other than Halloween. And again, Suave's Cemetery Man is right there with Dawn of the Dead when it comes to my favorite zombie films. So those could be in the top 5. When we go beyond that, Kubrick's The Shining is another favorite. I don't know if it's in my top 5, but it's probably in my top 10. So it gets like, I have seen so much shit over the years that it's really hard. And it's the same thing when people ask me like my top 5 favorite MCs. It's like there are too many of them now. There are too many guys and films that are good to just like go, these 5 are definitive, but I can get the 3. That top 3 is pretty rock solid for me. Like there's never a day where I go, oh, I don't think Suspiria is one of my top 3 anymore. Whereas when you get down to like 5 through 10, things shift around depending on the day or the subgenre or things like that. I hope that answered the question fairly. Oh, what else have we got here, guys? Right? It's the perfect Viking beard too. Like the only bad thing about the beard now is like being a power lifter and a strongman is like when you do the log press, you got to roll it up your chest and it rolls up here. And when it rolls with a bunch of weight on it, it literally tugs my beard out of my face and it hurts like hell. But other than that, hey, that beard's great. Yes, that's it. Firefox. That was the one. We saw that. That was one of the first movies I saw on VCR. I remember sitting in the den at my parents' house on a cold winter day with that on the VCR going, yeah, this is kind of cool, but I wish we'd rented a horror movie. uh, right? That's it. I got the Viking power lifter. It's like national law. I have to have the beard. So yeah, John, this was the same thing for me. Is like I've told this story before that like I was fascinated by the cover of the novel when I was like 4 years old, and so I wanted to see it. I wanted to see the movie, and like my parents are like, "You're not going to watch this movie. You're 4 years old. This is going to scare the shit out of you," and they were right. And so, but they were also open to trying it, and so they bought the soundtrack album and they put the headphones on my head and put on the Jaws theme, and that scared the shit out of me. And yet they still took me to the drive-in to the movie, and I hid in the back seat, wouldn't even look at the screen, and fell asleep. So but yeah, Jaws still terrifies me. Like it's because it's possible, like, and I live near the water, and I have recurring dreams about being eaten by sharks and alligators and all that. So yeah, it's a scary film. Like, it's legitimately scary. So all right, what else have we got? Right. And that's like most Italian horror. I mean, if we're being honest, like the Italians were not concerned with plot or anything like that. They were more about dreamlike atmosphere, really cool visuals. And that's why when I first saw Suspiria, I didn't care for it, because I came from an American slasher film background. And so I expected logical stories with a beginning, middle, and end, and that they made sense and they wrapped up. And Suspiria was none of that. Like, I admired the soundtrack and the colors and all that, but I didn't like the movie. And then I finally got it when I saw Demons, because Demons is the perfect bridge between those two countries' horror output. It's got the gore and sort of crazy American horror elements that were in the slasher films, but it's also got the Italian sensibilities that it doesn't make a lick of sense, and it doesn't matter. So, but yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, you don't watch it because you're concerned about the story. Definitely not. So I get flack for this a lot, but I hate Blade Runner. Like, I have seen every cut of Blade Runner in existence, I think, like, because I want to like it. I feel like I'm supposed to like it. It's supposed to be something I'm into. And so I'm like, well, maybe if I see this 168-minute version, it'll make sense finally. It'll click. It never clicks, and I have just given up. But man, I bugged the shit out of my parents to see it back in the day, and they never let me see it. That's the same place I saw Highlander as where I saw Blade Runner for the first time, on their VCR, friend's VCR. So, this is also, yeah. So everybody's like, "Oh, your favorite Argento," and I always go with Suspiria, but Tenebrae is right there with it. And my dark horse is always Phenomena, because I just think Phenomena is fun and batshit insane and just utterly charming. So definitely a fan of that one too. So, but Tenebrae is the one I saw with Dario back in like 2000, and so it was special because of that. But it was special before that. It's just a really good mystery giallo thriller with some great gore and just a crazy story. That one's one I do watch for the story, not because it's particularly well plotted, but it's fun. Yes. Thoughts on how important music soundtracks affects playing a movie and with movies. Yeah. So this is funny you mentioned this, because there was a funny thing back on Laserdisc. There was the Halloween, one of the Halloween Laserdiscs had a thing where they talked about the fact that when they were shooting Halloween and doing the dailies, that the executives were not pleased with what Carpenter was doing, because they didn't think it was scary, because they were just seeing the dailies with no music. And then when they saw the cuts with the music, they figured it out that it actually was scary, because the music made it scary. And was actually a section of that supplement on the disc where they would play the scene without the music and then play it with the music, and it makes an incredible amount of difference. So the music is obviously one of the most underrated parts of creating a good horror film. And that's part of why Suspiria is so effective, because the Goblin score takes it to an entirely different level. So, all right. Alex. Yeah, I know. I get this all the time. We saw. So here's the funny thing. I didn't know for a long time. Because you only read it, like he wasn't doing a ton of interviews. And then, and so like, I always wondered. And so I went and watched like 7 different videos where people pronounced it, not like the pronunciation videos, but where they were literally talking about him. And I got like 6 different pronunciations of his name. So I'm not Italian, so I didn't have any clue. Yeah, but I've figured that out. I try to do that better now, but I probably still screw it up because my brain still goes back to the old way. So, and yes, Blade Runner helps with my insomnia, but I do appreciate that. I do. Cause I don't want to say his name incorrectly, but I do it all the time. I'm just a dumb American, man. All right. What else have we got here? Why those? Because they're movies I like, and they were movie posters. I have a bigger collection. They were posters that were not super valuable. So that if they went on the set and got messed up in the process, like the Beyond has fallen down a bunch of times, like they weren't anything where I was going to have to like be upset if something happened to them. Like the Hellraiser was an original. It's probably worth a few bucks, but, and the Army of Darkness is an original as well. And the Beyond is as the Grindhouse re-release, which is probably fairly rare, but like, they were just the ones that I didn't care if like, if something happened, like if they fell off the wall and got a crinkle or whatever. So, and I like all those movies. So that was why. And a lot of the other stuff I have is either sort of valuable or, you know, I just didn't want to put it up. Like I have an In the Mouth of Madness. I thought about putting that one up, but I really, again, never wanted to do the posters long term. They were just a temporary thing so that I would start the channel, because otherwise I was going to sit here for 3 years trying to think up a set design before I started making videos. So we just did this so I could get making videos and see if I wanted to do this. And typical Bracken fashion, I still have not made a decision. All right. Oh, come on, man. Peter, you're killing. This is as bad as the Pollard, Haig, Dorif. Man. Look, I can't answer it. It's Saxon. And just barely. I don't want to live in a world where I have to pick between John Saxon and Tom Atkins. Oh, you guys are killing me. Killing me. I'm all for you liking it. I do not. And I have literally seen enough versions to know that I do not like it. This is a very good question because I'm an idiot. Yeah, it's in there. It's not in my top 3, but it's definitely my top 5. Yeah. I think because I like Halloween just a little bit more, not because I'm saying Halloween is better. I'm just saying I like Halloween a little bit more because of the October vibe and all that. But yeah, the thing is in there. Top 5 for sure. It's like number 4. Let's call it 4. I can live with that. And now you guys got me on the record. The Thing is 4. Oh. Billy Bob, Texas. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that, and happy Halloween to you. Hope you got big plans for the event. So that would be fantastic if you do. Are you going to watch anything cool? Go out to a party maybe? We used to go to a Halloween party like every year. That was awesome, and then we moved, and now we don't. It's kind of a bummer. Any thoughts on if or where H.P. Lovecraft modern takes and movies are going down the crapper? This is always going to vary film by film because Lovecraft gets adapted by like the whole gamut of people. Like we were going to have Del Toro do it, and yet we'll have some guy who, you know, is making like a $200 Call of Cthulhu movie. I think it's interesting. Like Lovecraft is like, we could do a whole show about Lovecraft and adaptations and the struggle of all that. So, hang on, I'm getting a text here. Okay. I'm getting told I have to go to dinner soon. So, but yeah, the whole, you know, the challenges of adapting Lovecraft and all that. But I think we're in an okay place. Like for a long time, all the Lovecraft adaptations were pretty lousy, for lack of a better word. And now we have gotten to the point where there definitely more, there are more good ones than there used to be. So I think we're on the upward trajectory, moving in the right direction, but I'm not ready to go like we're having like an H.P. Lovecraft renaissance in film right now. So, all right, take a couple more and then I have to go eat. Yeah. So this is the thing. Like this is the challenge of adapting Lovecraft. I mean, there are multiple. Like, how do you create a monster that he couldn't describe, and how do you create the sense of scale and cosmic dread that the elder gods supposedly inspire that drive people insane and all that in a film where you have to show something, right? And that's it. And then how do you make it compelling to a modern audience when the stories are written in such an archaic way and in the 1930s? You and I would totally be down to watch a movie set in the 1930s. I don't know if today's younger crowd would watch that or not. I think the real test of that was going to be Del Toro's At the Mountains of Madness, because he was going to make a film that was really a Lovecraft film. And if that did well, then yeah, we could do it. There would be more of them. But unfortunately, he didn't get to make it. So that was almost this week's sick flick. Very close. Had it in my hand. I like it. And you may see it soon. So definitely might happen. Alex, I don't have a copy anymore. That's part of the problem. The other problem is I don't know how hard it'll be to get past YouTube. But it's on the list. Like all that is on the list. Yeah, we got Bad Taste before YouTube went insane, although they did come back and demonetize it after the fact. So there was that. And it sucks because that's a popular episode that I don't make any money on anymore. But yeah, so yeah, Meet the Feebles. It's on the list. I want to do it. So hopefully soon. Yes. This is the thing. Lovecraft, like he's a revered writer. He is not a great writer. Like his stuff is incredibly dated, but it's very, very hard to read now. And require, you know, like you have to buy an annotated version with a bunch of notes to make sense of half of it. It's the best way to experience it. And some of his characters are not bright or well drawn. I will agree with you completely on that. I love them, but yeah. Yes, The Void is awesome and sweet, which is funny because, as I said in the video, the first time I saw The Void, I did not really care for it, only because it was a festival darling. And like what happens is like a bunch of my colleagues who are film critics will go see everything at a festival, and then everything, because they're at a festival, that just magnifies its awesomeness by like 1,000. And so like everything you see at these guys see at a festival is like, oh, this is the greatest horror movie in 50 years. And then when you get it, when it comes out on a home service or you get to see it locally, it never lives up to the hype that they gave it. And that was The Void for me. They so sold me on it being so gory and great and wonderful. And it is gory and the gore is great, but the characters are not very good. And the story isn't particularly interesting in, you know, like at a first glance. And And so I just didn't think it lived up to its reputation. Upon revisiting it for Sick Flicks, I liked it more because I was not burdened with those expectations. I went in with very low expectations because I had seen it and didn't particularly care for it. I like it better. So now I still don't love it, but it's still a pretty good Lovecraft adaptation. That's me. Someone once said, like when I was a Rotten Tomatoes meter critic, someone was like, God, Bracken's only agrees with the consensus like 67% of the time. That's really low. And I thought, God, that's way too often. See, and I love Baskin. I think Baskin is way better. And like the funny thing about Baskin is there's a video that really breaks down the sort of Turkish part of Baskin, the myth and all that and how it works, which you should not need to see that to appreciate Baskin. But if you do see it and then watch the movie, it will give you an extra level of appreciation for Baskin. But I think Baskin's way better than The Void. That's just me, though. And you know what? It's not like sometimes people are just contrarians to be contrarian. I'm not. I think what I think, and I'm not afraid to tell you what I think if you ask me. And sometimes if you don't ask me, I'm still going to tell you. So... All right, guys, I have to go eat. This has been fun. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me today. I hope you all have a happy and safe Halloween. Lots of new videos coming. I will be back for more live streams in November. I'm not sure what dates yet, but I'll let you know when we're going to do them. And be safe and be careful. And I hope you get lots of good candy. All right, guys, take it easy. Good night.